that is actually a beautiful thing because we can actually provide that level of safety, trust, governance for our customers. Within 3 quarters, we had our first product out.
Wow.
When we had to really put our foot on the pedal on generative AI, we knew exactly who to approach.
And as you build these products out, Vishwesh, which part was the most challenging? I mean, from a technical point of view, I think even hiring the talent, you would have had to hire a lot of product managers, developers, training them would have taken time. And I'll come to the talent part later again. Purely from a technical standpoint, all the internal products you have built, which has been the most challenging and I guess also rewarding at the same time for you? Today we have a veteran from the incumbent world, from the world of enterprise software, ServiceNow, where Vishwesh, thanks again for coming. He's the Senior Director of Product Management for AI, ServiceNow globally, and also heading the entire AI efforts from the India team. We'll be uncovering how large companies are thinking about the AI opportunity, and towards the later half, we'll also get into what it means for startups, and if startups are looking to attack certain categories in software, what are some of the frameworks they can use. So without further delay, Vishwesh, coming to you. You studied in India, ended up moving to the US, 16 years there if I'm not mistaken. You have been in AI for the longest, right? You were heading product at Alexa. Now you're heading product in AI again at ServiceNow. Why did you decide to come back to India?
First of all, thanks for the warm welcome and thanks for having me at Axel. I am super excited to be here and actually share a lot of things, what has worked for ServiceNow and what I think will be relevant for your portfolio companies in Axel. At a high level, what ServiceNow is doing is truly for all the customers across the different geographies and across the world. And me being in Bay Area versus India, I think the customer use cases and focus is pretty much the same for ServiceNow. Specifically for me, I always wanted to be here back to India at some point. And I was looking for the right opportunity from the right company to be back here and actually work from India itself. As you mentioned, I was in Amazon Alexa and was doing great. And when the opportunity came in ServiceNow to incubate new ideas within ServiceNow, I jumped on it. And that's how I moved from Amazon Alexa to ServiceNow US. I was in Santa Clara office. While working, there was an interesting opportunity which opened up to lead some of that initiative in India. And we have a big office in Hyderabad as well as Bangalore, and there are many remote employees as well. So I jumped on it. I said, okay, there's a good time to lead the teams, product teams in India, and I moved back. When I moved back is where something very interesting happened, which is the launch of ChatGPT in November of 2022, few months after I moved here. And they were looking for a person to actually lead that charter in various aspects of AI initiatives and specifically generative AI. And that's when I moved from those initiatives to incubate ideas to actually lead the AI platform initiatives for ServiceNow. So it worked out very well. I was in the right place at the right time to lead the AI story or most of the AI story, a part of the AI story for ServiceNow.
Yeah, I remember that. That is around the same time I ended up joining Excel, and even I picked up GenAI as the first thesis. And it's been a pleasure knowing you for 2 years. And I think Bangalore startup ecosystem is very glad to have people like you. Many people might not know, but you are a very active and very helpful advisor and mentor to startups here, many from our portfolio as well. So thanks again for that. Now, coming to the topic, before we actually get into some of the questions that I've thought for you, what's the 10,000 feet view, like sitting inside one of the cloud giants? What's the 10,000 feet view on what are enterprise software companies most excited about and most worried about when it comes to GenAI?
Excellent question. Let me take a big picture view on this, on how am I thinking, how is ServiceNow or companies like ServiceNow thinking about it. At a fundamental level, this is super exciting for a big company like ServiceNow, which has thousands of enterprise customers, very strong distribution, and very entrenched customers. And the reason for that is this opens a massive opportunity for us to provide even more value to our customers. So in fact, most of the customers are using multiple products and multiple workflows of ServiceNow, and we now have opportunity to accelerate the development and value creation we can give to our customers. So that's at a very high level. To peel the onion a little bit, the number one thing is productivity and agility we can help provide to the customers. Number two is we are in a very good position because what generative AI does, it does provide a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, there's a lot of risks like legal risk, ethical risk, there's security risk. And being ServiceNow, we have enough resources to actually solve that problem for enterprise users. We cannot just do as it's done in the B2C world. We have to put in the safeguards in place. We have to be very conscious of the AI safety, the trust, to make sure we maintain the trust with our customers. So that is actually a beautiful thing because we can actually provide that level of safety, trust, governance for our customers. And finally, it actually helps our bottom line and our top line to provide more of these features much faster to our customers. So all that combined, it is I think to a large extent, a superb opportunity or a golden opportunity for a company like ServiceNow to have and leverage the power what GenAI brings. So that's from a ServiceNow perspective. Stretching it a little bit beyond and looking it from across the world or across all the companies, I think there is opportunity for early stage companies to really build some things very fast in the B2C, B2B space. But then the transition from being a startup to really being a big company is challenging for these companies because of the distribution which is already being cracked by the bigger companies. But then there are massive opportunities because you can really reinvent the wheel much faster than you could have done, let's say, 2 years back.
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons, but at the same time, the technology is moving so quickly. I think there's more opportunities for all the players across the spectrum.
On that note, like one specific narrative, which I don't think we have clear answers to right now, but the narrative is that the entire world of SaaS is based on seat-based pricing. You talked about productivity. If you end up excelling at productivity as a SaaS company today, you are kind of minimizing the number of seats that you can sell to, if it actually works out in the long run. I understand the part about unlocking value and like maybe the pie increases, but the number of people who you're selling to who are using your software might decrease over time. How do you think about that? Do you think that's a challenge to SaaS pricing model itself, or it's evolving, or you have some answers which you can help us with?
Yeah. Again, great question. I don't think I have the answer, but I'll give you multiple ways of thinking around it because I don't think anyone has figured that out yet.
That's right.
And maybe there is a way to think about it where it may not be a problem itself. So let me put a couple of perspectives. So the first perspective is, will it reduce the seats? At this moment, I don't know. I don't see that. I don't know. And the reason for that is companies have a lot of challenges, problems, and they have their end customers they have to solve for and cater for. Today, GenAI is being infused, be it ServiceNow or most of the other SaaS companies, in all their existing products. Except for the infrastructure and model companies, GenAI itself is not a product. It is actually being embedded into the existing workflows or existing services or whatever the offering the companies have. So if you look from that perspective, if you can do 1x the work before GenAI, now you can do, let's say, 1.1 or 2x, depending on that use case. You can do more of it. So what companies are doing is they are accelerating their product launches or their support for customers. So for example, just to take a specific use case and a metric, if they are serving mean time to response for a given case or incident is, and these are just general examples, not specific to ServiceNow, if they are taking 30 minutes or an hour, now they can do it in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So the person's productivity has improved massively, and with their current hiring plan or the current resources, they can now do a much better support, which will improve their NPS score or their CSAT score. So that's the trend we are seeing today. And again, I don't know if it's going to reduce seats or not,
Yeah.
but at least today it's accelerating the whole adoption.
Yeah.
The second part of it, or the other way of looking, not second part, the other way of looking at it is, will it reduce the seats? Maybe it would. Because again, it's improving productivity. At some point, if a person can do 2x or 3x,
Yes.
it may. But then the thing is, the per seat pricing is also different than what it was before GenAI. So that's an important thing to note, where your pricing power would increase. Again, is it proportional
Sure.
or is it exponential?
Yeah.
We don't know that yet. But the per seat pricing has increased or will increase. And then even if you take with almost similar number of seats, because now they're way more productive, as a business, you're doing much better.
Yeah.
So that's I think a more appropriate way of looking at
Yeah.
it for be it a bigger company or a startup who is looking to leverage the power of GenAI and seat-based pricing or whatever pricing they're thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. I think even as a VC, that's at least one of the assumptions we are trying to live with is software is going to end up capturing more value than earlier. If entire SaaS is, let's say, 300 billion odd revenue every year, services is still like more than $1 trillion when it comes to software services, right? And I think when we talk about investing in AI or building in AI, we are probably going after the $1 trillion plus pie.
Yep.
It's not just what's been happening so far. So I think that's the optimistic perspective to look at it at least from a software insider perspective. Now I'll zoom back into ServiceNow. Among all the enterprise software companies, is one of the companies which has been received actually pretty well by the Wall Street. And you have the numbers to back that as well. A lot of the incremental growth that the platform is seeing is coming from the AI platform, and I think a lot of products that even you yourself are working on. What do you attribute this to? Is like a cultural edge, a technology edge? What's really going on at ServiceNow which you think is leading to like initial good perception when it comes to AI?
No, excellent question. I can think of few pointers or things to it, but again, it's just everything has to come together for it to be really successful. From my vantage point, how much I've seen and what we have seen from the India perspective and the global perspective, I would say this goes through three key things. Number one is our leadership. Our leadership was super proactive in understanding the power of GenAI much earlier than most of the large companies. So for example, just to give an example, around November 2022 is where ChatGPT came to the scene, and it was there before that, but it was in the public eye then.
Yeah.
Within a quarter, for a company like ServiceNow, we literally had changed our roadmap to cater to this new thing.
Okay, interesting.
Within 1 to 2 quarters, we had our whole organization working on it. And I think if I get the timeline right, within 3 quarters, we had our first product out.
Wow.
For a company like ServiceNow, we were moving at the speed of a startup. May not be exactly the startup can move in weeks, but for a company like ServiceNow, instead of years, we are moving in quarters.
Yeah.
For something like GenAI. So the lot of credit goes to leadership at a C-suite, as well as all the software and product leadership to identify that this was a key technology for us to leverage right away. That's point number one. The second was our long-term investments. ServiceNow didn't come to AI or GenAI on November 2022, or let's say early 2023. We are acquiring companies in AI and in generative AI when generative AI was not that famous.
Sure.
So I think from last 5+ years, we have acquired at least 7 companies in AI.
Wow.
And across the world, in Bay Area, in Montreal, in Canada, and in other places, in EMEA and APAC. So we had a very strong talent pool in ServiceNow, full-time on our payroll from a long time.
Very nice.
And this seems like okay, so what point? But this is a very important point, because when we had to really put our foot on the pedal on generative AI, we knew exactly who to approach what to do because we have folks who are in that industry from a very long time. For example, just specifically quoting, my boss comes from Element AI, which was one of the acquisitions, 100 million, I think, or maybe $200 million plus acquisition from Canada. And there are other such acquisitions which ServiceNow had made, which provided that boost in terms of having that intuitive knowledge on what to do.
Got it.
Which is super important. So that is the second point. And last...
And also the timing of these acquisitions, right?
They were much before 2022. They were there from a long time. We had products in AI even before GenAI became really cool or famous. And the third point is our strategy. Our strategy is not to have a standalone product as such, which is just one GenAI product, but our strategy was to keep all our SKUs as it is, be it in ITSM, ITOM, CSM, FSM, or the tens of other SKUs which we had. Our strategy was to infuse GenAI in every single workflow. Obviously, we started with a handful and then increased to more than 10, and now pretty much everyone would have some form of GenAI in their SKUs today in ServiceNow. And in that strategy, there was one more critical thing, which was we always had human in the loop. We said that our customer, whatever persona they are, employee persona, agent, requester, admin, developer, all our products are built in a way, and that's what my team does and all the sister teams do. We make sure there is a way for our enterprise customer to have human in the loop. So it's not something which people feel that they are not in control. They are in control, and that's how the products are built.
Yeah, coming to what you're doing, for our audience, if you could just explain the ServiceNow platform and where your products fit in. Yeah. And what are you doing on a daily basis today? That would really help us set the context.
My role is evolving as we go. What I was doing a year and a half back in GenAI is different than now. But I'll give an idea of where my role is today and where it's coming from, where it's going, and where it's heading. So if you look at ServiceNow, we have our BUs or business units. They are 4 key ones. We have IT workflows, or technology workflows, which is our bread and butter. That's how ServiceNow started. We have the customer workflows, which also has industry-specific workflows. We have the employee workflows, and we have the creator workflows. So those are the big business units. There are tens of products within those BUs. And then we have a platform group, which is Now Platform or ServiceNow Now Platform. Platform provides the fundamental features for all these BUs, and it's basically building those things which can be leveraged multiple times by every single workflow. And in platform, you can loosely say that we have 3 different pillars. One is the core foundational things like flow, designer, and all those. We have the experience or UX components, and we have the AI piece. So I'm part of the AI part of the platform, which powers all our BUs. So it's all centralized. The core AI technologies are all in this group. So this is the one single place where all the decisions and core products happen, which are then leveraged by other platform teams and then infused in all workflows. So the beauty of this is if we solve in a good way the hallucinations problem, which is very common in GenAI, or the governance issues, or the policies, or security, it's done in this central team. That way, it's consistent across all the workflows in ServiceNow. So it scales beautifully across ServiceNow. And finally, my role is, I started with owning the proprietary LLMs, what we call Now LLMs, and experiences in ServiceNow. And now my role has evolved to take over the experiences, but at the same time, all the AI tools exposed externally as well as internally across ServiceNow and for all our customers.
Which part was the hardest to build as you built out? I'm sure you had to hire a lot of people, train also in a lot of cases. So I'm sure there were like a lot of bottlenecks, but technology-wise, what are you proudest of? And as you build these products out, Vishwesh, which part was the most challenging? I mean, from a technical point of view, I think even hiring the talent, you would have had to hire a lot of product managers, developers, training them would have taken time. And I'll come to the talent part later again. But purely from a technical standpoint, all the internal products you have built, which has been the most challenging and I guess also rewarding at the same time for you?
Great question. I think there are too many challenges I can think of, as you can see.
Yeah.
But high level, if you really zoom in, for us, I'll get to technical from a product perspective. Completely revamping the roadmap and really steering towards a new direction, that was quite challenging.
Sure.
From a process perspective, our cadence changed. We were shipping in like every month and every 2 months, every 3 months, which was way faster than what a big company like ServiceNow had done. So the whole machinery had to reorient towards this wave of innovation and disruption which this technology had. Specifically zooming on the technical standpoint, we as ServiceNow did a interesting and very relevant decision, which is to build versus buy for LLMs itself. And our strategy was to do what is right for our customers. Obviously, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
We are not in the business of creating amazing models, LLM models. We are in the business of catering customer use cases. So for us, it was very important to pick the right model for the right use case.
Sure.
And early on, because what I mentioned before, we had a very strong technical team and a very strong research team in Montreal. We had a good intuition and good sense to do all of them. What I mean by that is we collaborated with Hugging Face and built our own LLM called StarCoder series, which was used for text to code and many other use cases. The same intuition helped us to realize that we don't have to use the same model for all of the use cases.
Okay, interesting.
Because for us, the important thing was to improve security, have the AI governance, reduce the hallucinations, and obviously the pricing control and all the other things which we need for a business. So our strategy was to pick the right model for the right use cases. And we did a series of these models, what we called SLMs or small language models. We also have large ones, but also small ones for various use cases. That was something which my team was closely involved with in that phase. And what we did is we successfully launched multiple models, because every model you pick, you have to do all the whole stack, including the instruction fine-tuning as well as use case fine-tuning, get the relevant data, golden data sets, evaluate it. All that overhead adds up when you have more than one. But the interesting thing is the output is much better even with a smaller model for your use case. Again, we are not trying to solve what the B2C models are doing, which is basically generate an image, write poems and all the other things. Our use case of enterprise specific, we have to do best thing for our customer, and we pick the right model for the right use case. We went through the whole cycle. The challenge was once you pick more than one, the whole thing adds up. The whole process, the overhead adds up. So we built amazing tools for evaluating, for benchmarking, for fine-tuning, and we kept improving them from multiple sprint cycles to couple of sprint cycles and even less than that for each of these new models for every single use case. And once we shipped that and we saw the results, I think that was perfect because that's what we were aiming for. Again, we did plan for it, but the very interesting effect of this is cost of running an SLM is much lower than a large language model, which gives us the pricing power. And at the same time, we control the roadmap because we know which features we want, be it for supporting multiple languages, or moving towards multimodality, or any of those use cases. We completely controlled the roadmap, or to a very large extent, and that gave us control over our strategy, the security and ethical and all the other dimensions, the pricing, as well as the features.
Interesting. And in this process, you would have had to build a lot of internal tools and infra yourselves, right?
Yep.
So my question is, do you smell like startup opportunity for some of these? Because I was checking ServiceNow's market cap this morning, like $167 billion, right?
Yeah.
So you can afford to buy or like build all
Yeah.
of that. But let's say some of the challenges you faced for which you had to build internal tools. Do you think there are some of these tools which could be like startup opportunities who can serve other customers?
The short answer is absolutely. In fact, the last I remember, our costs, cloud costs, and our infra costs, and all that are north of $1 billion just for us.
Sure.
Okay. And if you add up the whole SaaS ecosystem, big and small companies, it's way more than
Sure.
that. Can we do it more efficiently? Absolutely. Do we want to do all of it ourselves? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We want to collaborate and partner and pick the best ones. So from a startup perspective, there's tremendous opportunity for startups to actually build amazing software, which even companies like ServiceNow can leverage. There is even another angle, which I'm also actively involved, where we actively look for companies to acquire. And we have done that. We have done a bunch of it. The latest one, I think, is a Europe-based company, which I was also involved, Ration, for us to connect and get all the data sources and much more from that company for all the GenAI use cases.
Nice.
So for startups, and from my perspective, there are at least two angles, if not, I think, more than two. One is to build amazing software and products which can help us with our cloud and infrastructure costs. Second is we're always looking for amazing IP to bring it in-house to accelerate our roadmap and our products. And obviously, there's third angle where we can partner on a specific customer or a deal or other opportunities. But from a startup perspective, the opportunities are immense if you look from ServiceNow perspective.
Can you give one or two examples, Vishwesh? And I'm also looking for a cheat sheet for myself of where to invest next.
Absolutely. I think at a high level, the way I would say is in general, because I also have advised and invested in my personal money in some of these startups. The trends I am seeing here, not specifically from ServiceNow perspective, is in two angles. One is domain specific. I think manufacturing itself is a huge space where there's a lot of data which is old, which is biased many cases, and not organized. So there is tremendous opportunity for a startup or a company to help organize and get meaning out of this space for those set of companies. I'll also tie that why that is important. I have, before getting in AI, I was in the IoT space and cloud space. The insight I had there is manufacturing space is so broad and there are so many different variations within that space that it's extremely tough for one company to come and connect the dots in terms of protocols, data, the use cases. It's quite vast and quite varied. So there's opportunity for multiple companies to come in and solve for a given domain or given subdomain in manufacturing. So I think there's tremendous opportunity.
And large like individual markets also.
Exactly. And I think the question is why couldn't it be done before? Simply because there were so many variations, there was tough to put a structure even to have a meaningful business back then. Yes, there were companies there and there were a lot of IT services for that very reason in that space. But now with the power of GenAI, what it's bringing, I think you can now coalesce a little bigger than before and kind of build a meaningful business by combining or by taking multiple of these subdomains in manufacturing.
Interesting.
So that's one space which I think is very interesting. Shifting my hat to ServiceNow specifically, are we doing something in that space? Absolutely. We have industry workflows, and that's one of the key areas which we are focused on. But there is a lot of opportunity for startups as well, simply because that space is so diverse and so huge, there is enough opportunities.
Yeah.
The other angle, if you ask me, is from a IP or a technology perspective. We had deep learning algorithms which helped ads and many other spaces, let's say 10 years back.
Sure.
Then we had predictive kind of technologies and time series kind of AI technologies helped a lot of other spaces. Then came GenAI, which was a tool which could be used for a vast array of use cases, but it's not going to stop there. I think the way it's going, there'll be lot of newer technologies, fundamental IP created in the AI space. One example, again, we still don't know how unique it is, but one example can be autonomous AI agents.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype today, but the potential is also equally big from what is possible by these AI agents. There is a tremendous amount of potential for new companies to show value in that space, to be a potential acquisition target for a bigger company, or nail a use case and grow from there to really become big. And that's where the investments might be very attractive from a VC perspective or from a bigger company as well. So to summarize, I think domain-specific manufacturing looks extremely interesting from investments and growth. And second is upcoming IP. Again, I'm just giving an example which is on top of my head, but there can be other such technologies which are in the nascent stage today. A startup can tackle it and actually be the winner in the next wave or next set of waves.
Yeah, I think one of the on the latter point, one of the upcoming innovations that I'm personally very excited about is robotics and training robots in simulation and bridging the simulation to reality gap.
Yep.
I think a lot of work happening there that could become interesting and mainstream in some time. And there are several examples like that I think.
I think there's an interesting point there, which is at a macro or 100,000 foot.
Yeah.
Most of what is happening in software was in the digital world until I would say, even today, I think. But at some point, that will transfer to the physical world. And the first signs of it are actually being seen because there's a lot of investments happening in beyond the driverless cars, which is definitely happening. But beyond the driverless cars, from companies, bigger companies like Tesla and others, once you see there is potential there for a software or AI, and I consider AI as part of software, to be really applicable in the physical world, I think it's like a Cambrian explosion of companies in that space. Yeah. And now there would not be a digital and a physical divide.
Yes.
And it'll be same. If you have some technology in digital, it'll be applicable in physical and vice versa.
Also having new modalities. I'm sure you're also excited about what voice brings to the table now, because now we have real-time understanding of natural language voice.
Yep.
And what it means for software, both B2B, B2C context, that I think has a lot of open areas as well.
Yep.
Yeah. What about voice at ServiceNow? Are you seeing any market pull for any particular voice markets?
Yeah. So 2 points. I'll just take the modalities question.
Yeah.
So if you really see what the previous topic we discussed in modalities, actually it is a modality. If you look at it, you have text input-output modality, your voice input-output, you have the visual input-output, and then you have the motion input-output. The motion is actually robotics, right?
Yeah.
So it's not different.
Yeah.
So what we are looking at is LLMs or something similar or some other technology started with this text input-output, then voice, then now visual is quite exciting with images and video. And motion is not far off. And this is just a spectrum of modalities what we humans have, which is text input-output, voice input-output, visual input-output, and the motion, which is all the other moments. And so I think it's the same continuum of
I see what
is happening.
Yeah.
It's not different, if you ask me. Coming to ServiceNow and voice, I think there are a lot of amazing use cases which we are definitely considering. I think it all depends on the customer pull, and that's where we are at this stage. And we have exciting product offerings like image to playbook and all that we have already launched. So this is definitely as part of the whole modality spectrum what we have in ServiceNow.
Now, coming back from robotics and voice and fancy stuff to SaaS, in the world of AI, what do you think a great SaaS company will be doing differently from a good SaaS company?
So this is an interesting question. I think at a fundamental level, not just SaaS, but for any product company, a great company starts with a customer and ends with delivering value to that customer use case. So the answer is not different if it is SaaS or non-SaaS. The answer is the same. There is a customer pain point and you give an amazing product which customer really wants and for their pain point. Or customer may not even know there is a pain point, but you solve for it and they really there's a demand for that product. So great products, I think, start with a customer pain point and end with delivering a value. And that is true for SaaS, non-SaaS, be it any space.
Fair.
Specifically for SaaS, is there a difference? I think great products would have amazing user experience,
Okay.
Equivalent to what we have in the B2C world.
I see.
Because I think there is no distinction in the expectation what the customer is having, because we are so used to all the other apps on your phone or our browser or any place we go. Customer experience or the user experience overall has to be on par with what customers are used to, and that will definitely help with the pull or the distribution of that SaaS product.
Sure. So the lines between consumer and enterprise products will like blur and maybe blur at a faster rate now with AI.
It is already. I think it's already there, because my B2C app, let's say WhatsApp or Gmail or whatever you're using, is on the, be it Android or iPhone, it's on the same screen. And I touch today, like at this moment on, let's say, one of these, and within 2 minutes, I'm going to touch a B2B enterprise app. And today they're almost similar for me in terms of the UX, the visuals, the button, the colors. They're all have to be similar for you to be the best or great SaaS company, what you need to be.
I agree with that. I hope that happens because I've used Microsoft Teams and I've used Zoom. I don't want to say a lot because this is a recorded podcast, but I think you understand what I mean, right? Just the user experience difference. And now it's even more possible to create that differentiation. And it's also become multimodal, both input, output. So there's so much that can be done in elevating the user experience in the enterprise. So that's definitely interesting to watch out for. We'll move towards the end, but before that, something specifically to the talent in India. How hard is it to hire like great AI talent, product engineering, testing, all of that combined right now? And do you think your answer will be different in like 3 years? What are the trends you're seeing?
I think it's like any other new technology or space. When it comes into this scene or in and like demand, like in GenAI case, or even in the cloud era, cloud wave or social wave or IoT or blockchain, whatever you want. Some waves were successful, some were not. But any new wave, there'll be a supply-demand gap. You will not have that supply because people are not into that space. I think ServiceNow, or in general, we had that gap a year and a half, 2 years back. Luckily for ServiceNow, as I mentioned before, we already had acquired a lot of companies, so we had that great AI talent in-house. The hiring challenges for us so far is good because ServiceNow has a very strong brand from a work-life balance, the way company is doing.
Good Glassdoor rating?
Yes. I have not checked it, but I think it is. So all that works very well for ServiceNow. In the space and the market and tier, we are there for AI. So this is very good for us. So from a ServiceNow perspective, it's good, but for startups and many other companies, it's a tough thing, which I think is opportunity for a company like ServiceNow, because we can offer those products and scale that companies, their businesses. So it's a good thing for us. We are in a good place. Where will it be 2 years, 3 years down the line? I think the best guess, or based on the past trends, what I can see is when there is demand for such a technology with such an immense potential, there'll be hundreds and thousands of people who will jump in to train themselves, upskill themselves, which has happened for the last 2 years, which will happen for the next 2 years. What that means is it won't be that the supply will just shoot up. It's like a pendulum. It'll just shoot up. When will it happen? My best guess is, I think it'll be in another 2 years max. Where there'll be enough supply of high quality development or QA or any of those data scientists and all those folks in India or any other space which has a rich startup ecosystem or big companies. So I think we'll get there. It's just market dynamics.
I like that optimism. I think that would be interesting because a lot of our startups right now are actually constrained not by capital but finding the talent to make it work. And you're right. When there's demand, it should happen. And maybe all of us have a part to play there as well, so that India quickly moves and starts.
And again, just to bring the investor or Axel perspective, there's opportunity for startups as well. If they see there is a gap in, let's say, data curation or whatever that whole cycle of AI development is.
Yeah.
I think there's a tool there, SaaS tool, which few companies can leverage.
Yeah.
So all those factors combined, I think we'll move on to some other new technology and there'll be a supply demand gap there.
Yeah, that's a cycle that keeps repeating. I'm glad we got a chance to speak at this very interesting moment of the cycle, and we'll hope to have you soon at some of our other events as well. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Anag. Thanks everyone for listening to me and having me here. I'm super excited to collaborate and advise startups, work with them, evaluate them as needed in this AI ecosystem.
A lot of the work which is going on in the incumbent large companies, especially the forward-looking companies like ServiceNow, has implications on how startups should think about their strategies, think about open areas, and think about collaboration versus necessarily competition for a lot of cases. So hope this gave some perspective, and we'll be having more guests like Vishwesh and like our previous guests in the upcoming episodes, so stay tuned.